that was honestly like Christmas in Aberdeen this weekend, this car show. And I texted him on Saturday night because I'd watched A Man Called Ove. I was like, I'm crying so much and it just won't stop, and the cat's staring at me.
And you drive a Ford.
I know. This is terrible.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Snakes. What happened with snakes?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Batman.
I am the father.
Oh man, actually, do you know, I really liked, as I say, I liked this book, but I didn't really like that Anxious People. His next book, it's not a follow-up, obviously, it's just a second book.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that as much, but I kind of feel like I might see how the Netflix series is, because obviously that gets snapped up.
Is it quite recent on Netflix? Or has it been there for a while?
I think it's been there for a while, because the book has, let me just double check, the book has been out for a while as well. 2021.
All
right. A few years. I might take a look at it. As I say, I absolutely adore that Ida Engvall, so I watched the first season of Love and Anarchy on Netflix, which is a kind of rom-com, which I don't usually do, but she works in a publishing house, and it kind of sets up this sort of game of dares, and it all becomes very romantic. But it was very good, although I was concerned at one point that my neighbours might have thought I was watching porn, because they're not shy about the nudity.
Right, okay. Yep. And then they looked at the driveway and noticed the car wasn't there, so
I thought,
you weren't watching porn.
Yeah, they were like, it won't be her. And then, to be fair, if they thought Chris was watching porn, it'd probably just be episodes of Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson.
Oh, I started watching that For Those About to Die on Prime. It's set
how is it?
Oh, it's dreadful. But it's funny dreadful. It's
okay.
It wants to be a cross between...
Is it meant to be bad?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it's trying to be a cross between Game of Thrones and Gladiator. It's set in, obviously, ancient Rome, and it's like the games, and it's like a new emperor who's trying to sort of keep the peace. And it's like Anthony Hopkins is the emperor.
Yeah, I've seen the posters and the trailer for it, because it's got that guy, the big Icelandic guy. His name I forgot.
Yeah,
he was in that Trapped. Oh fuck! And it's also got the guy from. He was in. Oh, Johannes Johannesson. How did I not get that?
Yep.
That's the big Icelandic guy, but I thought the guy from.
Oh, it's the guy from one of the guys from Game of Thrones, is it? In it as well, the Welsh guy. He's one of the main leads. Yes, he was one of the bastards in Game of Thrones. That's what I'm saying. There's certain connections. The way that it starts, the title sequence, you're going, that's Game of Thrones. It's the same thing. And then you've got some of the music in it sounds exactly like Hans Zimmer's music from Gladiator and stuff like that. It's all like the whale and stuff. And there's a big chariot race sequence in it, and it looks so fake. Because they use, what's it called? The volume, you know, the thing that they used for a lot of the Star Wars TV shows.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think they've used that for bits of it as well, and it kind of looks a wee bit fakey, but you can see what they're going for. But it may be something that gets better as in you accept what it is and watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've only watched one episode of it so far, and I will watch more of them because it does look like bonkers enough.
You're a sucker.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Christian Hillborg is the actor that I was meaning. So he was in Fleabag. Do you remember when her sister has the affair with the like really permatanned?
Yes.
And he was also in The Last Kingdom as well. And I think maybe like was he in The Bridge? Yeah, he was. He was the journalist that got blown up in his car.
I know who you mean, yes. I know exactly who you mean.
So he's in it as well. So I knew there was a couple of Scandi faces in that as well. But I saw Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins for me is definitely a scenery tour. So I saw him in the posters, and I was like, don't know if this is for me, but now that you've confirmed that it's bad, part of me does want to watch it.
Oh no, I would say by all means give it a watch, because it's not going to take an awful lot of concentration to watch it. It's one that you can just sort of have on, and maybe a thing, maybe not, but ask.
You watched Cleo season 1, didn't you?
No, I have not. It's on my Netflix list. because season 2's out as well now, isn't it?
Binged it all in a winner. Couldn't stop myself.
Wow. Okay.
It was so good.
Well, obviously this week I can't watch certain things that are on the telly because I watch them with Leslie. So it's like the finale
Are
of
you on a ban?
Well, yeah, I did say to her I would just watch House of the Dragon anyway tonight, but it's the finale, the season finale, and she says, "Don't you dare, do not dare." So there's that, and there's a few other things that we watch. So I'll give Cleo a chance this week. Then I'll give it a watch.
It's honestly like, and I was worried that because it'd been some time since the first season, the second season, that I was going to forget everything. The season recap is enough, and if you watch it back to back, I just can't get over how, first of all, how cool it looks. Yeah, because the color palette is like, absolutely tripping balls, but also just how it doesn't lose. Like, I was worried that again at the second season we sort of lose that whole like, she's a spy and the GDR's collapse and all that. It doesn't lose any of the tension and fun, because it's really, really fun. There's lots of humor in that as well. I think it would be right up your street.
Oh, good. I have a wee recommendation for you, but it's a sort of time-sensitive one.
Yes.
It's a film called Page 8. Have you seen that? It stars Bill Nighy, Rachel Weisz, Ralph Fiennes, Michael Gambon, and Judy Davis.
You're talking my language.
It's directed by David Hare, who is obviously a well-known dramatist. It's only on Netflix for another week. It's been on for ages. It's a political sort of spy drama, but it's very wordy, as in it's just people talking in rooms. There's no action sequences in it, and it's all about this information that's going to come out about the Americans carrying out torture in various places in the world and what the British government actually knew about it. And it's cracking. It's about an hour and 3/4. It's really good. And apparently there are 2 follow-up films which are not on Netflix anymore, but I've kind of managed to track them down. And I've not watched them, but I watched Page 8 about 2 years ago, and then when I was flicking through Netflix last night, it came up again and it said, limited time, it leaves and
so like a week
14th.
To go.
And so I watched that again last night and it really holds up to second viewing. It was a really good film. I would definitely
give it a watch, because I've also just seen that Alice Creek is in it, and to tie into our last podcast, she's the witch in Gretel and Hansel.
Yep.
Oh, okay, I'm definitely going to watch that. Also, we watched The Bear, and then we're going to start Shogun as well, because if I don't commit to watching this, I think he's going to do his dinger, because I've made him watch all these other things. And then I'm going to watch that Sugar that you recommended as well, the Colin Farrell thing, because that also sounds perfect for me. And then I might do that in an Apple free trial, but then I really want to get Apple properly so we can watch that Slow Horses, because you always talk so highly of that I do want to.
And it's coming back again. I think the 4th season that's going to. Once you watch Sugar, we really need to have a conversation about it.
Oh, this makes me so excited. I love new series recommendations. And the thing is, I actually do find myself watching, like, as I say, Cleo, I sat down, and before I knew it, the episodes are between 45 minutes and an hour, but once I started, I couldn't stop. So I do find myself really, really engaged in these things. And The Bear was the same as well. We binged, they're only half an hour episodes, that's different. We binge watched all of that as well. So I'm very much I'll hit the next episode button and just keep going until I've spent my entire day on the couch.
I think Apple TV is probably a good shout, but just for a couple of months, and then you just watch everything that's on it, and then maybe like in 9 months' time go back to it when new stuff comes on. That's kind of the way a lot of people are doing these things, because if you have it for 2 months, you just watch all the content that they've got, and after that you're kind of going, well, do I really want to watch anything else? And people are doing that. They're switching back and forward between services now.
That's what we were at Disney. So we watched The Bear, and we're going to watch Shogun. And then I was like, and so let's get rid of that and get Apple so we can offset the cost or whatever of that. Not that it's much, but it's still just that thing of you are paying for it and you're not touching it unless The Bear or something drops, and then you will commit to it.
Yeah.
Because I've not even watched any. I've not watched The Acolyte. I've not watched any of the new Star Wars stuff, because I feel kind of I'm done with that at the moment. Whereas I might swap, do a wee binge of all my Apple TV stuff, because seemingly that Presumed Innocent is great as well. The Jake
So I've heard,
yes.
I've not watched it yet, but I'm going to,
Yeah, so it might be worth just getting that for a couple of months, binging through everything, and then, as you say, just recycling through them all. I think Netflix and Prime are probably the constants. It's just the other stuff that you're kind of swapping between, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff on Apple. For All Mankind is really good. The sort of alternative history space race thing. That's really, really good. And that
Is that
gets
the
a
one
bit.
with Joe Kinnaman? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah. There's some really dodgy prosthetics and makeup to age him between like 1960s and like 2020 or something like that. So they make him older as they go along. So he's
See.
kind of convincing as a younger man, but then when he gets,
I mean, how do you disguise those biceps? Seriously.
exactly, yes, yeah. There's no muscle loss or anything, you know. He doesn't change in that way. He doesn't get a dad bod or anything. He's still this sort of really strong, tall, upright guy. But yeah, there's loads of stuff on there. It's really worth watching. But again, yeah, just switching, change things about, watch lots of stuff. Yeah,
I think that'll be the way. So, as I say, we're going to try and do Shogun and then get rid and maybe swap to Apple, because I don't know if Apple are doing a free trial. I think maybe it's like 7 days or something like that. But even then, I would take it just to binge something like Sugar, so I can do that and then sign up for the rest of it. So, because I do want to see Slow Horses and quite fancy the morning show as well. I don't know. Have you seen that?
I have. I haven't watched the last season of that yet, but I've seen it's either 2 or 3 of them, and it's really worth it. It's very interesting in the fact that the second season of it happened when COVID hit, and they'd actually filmed some of it, and then they just scrapped it all, and they changed it so that it reflected exactly what was going on at the time in terms of COVID and all that as well. So it's quite relevant for the time that it was actually made, and yeah, it works really well. I mean, Jennifer Aniston, she's a good dramatic actor, so you can't really go wrong that way. And Reese Witherspoon, is what we call top tier acting.
So, well, it's interesting because I think is it Matt Damon's and Casey Affleck has a new series coming to Netflix, and it is not Netflix, sorry, Apple TV, and it is interesting now watching actors who, unlike Jennifer Aniston, who obviously made her name in television, watching actors who you would assume would stick with the cinema route, who are now being drawn into, because they're such high quality productions, they're now being drawn into these kind of TV series.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah, because you can do things at your own pace. You can tell the story as long as or as short as you want. It doesn't have to follow in the format of a 2-hour film. Adapting a book, for instance, like Presumed Innocent, there you go. It was a 2-hour film, but it's like a 6 or 7 hour TV series. So there's obviously so much more in there, and especially with the streaming model as it is, episodes are as long as they need to be. You don't have a uniform, you don't have the uniform 44-minute show anymore that was for broadcast TV, so they would have an hour's worth of content, including adverts. It's like, you can have a 30-minute episode, you can have an episode that's an hour and 20 minutes, just depending on the story they're telling. So that kind of works really well as well. I like that.
Yeah, I noticed that in The Bear and obviously Cleo, because I've watched them both recently. I was aware that some episodes, like Cleo, is like 35 minutes, then some are 50 minutes, and some are somewhere in between. But it's just because that's how long that particular episode needs, which I actually really like as well, because when there's nothing worse than I feel like when you feel like you've been shortchanged by something, whereas these do give it the time to sort of flesh it out. But then, was it Fawlty Towers I read about? Was it Fawlty Towers, I think, when it was on the BBC, obviously, donkeys and donkeys ago, they get told like on a weekly basis, like, oh, we've got like 47 minutes to fill, can you do it? And then the next week it'd be like, you've actually only got 28. So I think all their episodes are all different lengths as well, because it was just whatever the BBC had free in a week.
All right, okay.
Which never happens on like terrestrial telly. It's always like you've got from 6 to 6:30 or whatever it is. But I'm sure I read that he was given like, you've got X amount of minutes, can you fill it?
All right, okay. There's a stage show that's just started up, Fawlty Towers.
Is there?
Yeah, it's opened in London maybe about 6-7 weeks ago, and apparently it's really, really good. And it's pretty much like 3 episodes of it, but they've changed it and sort of managed it into one big stage show, and it's got all the characters in it, and apparently they're all really good without being sort of total caricatures. their
Yeah.
interpretations of it, but and it's meant to work really well. So I'd be quite interested to see that at some point.
wow. Yeah, I think because I know I mean, and we'll probably get cancelled for saying this. I absolutely despise Only Fools and Horses. I don't find it funny, and I know that get made into a stage show as well. But I'd never heard about the Fawlty Towers one because I know I'd seen posters, funnily enough, for a Fawlty Towers dining experience, which sounds like hell. I have to say, just sounds like that would be chaos. But I didn't realise there was a stage show as well. That would actually be quite cool. I have fond memories of watching that, like on repeat, obviously when I was wee.
Yeah. It's one of those kind of the staples of the BBC during the 70s and 80s. It was on all the time. You consider, and you think, it must have been hundreds of episodes. There's like 12 or something, you know. Because they did a US remake of that, tying that nicely back into. Yes. And do you know what they did? What's the one thing do you think they couldn't possibly do to a Fawlty Towers remake?
Change the location?
No. They took out Basil Fawlty.
Fuck off.
Yep.
How does that work?
I know.
I thought you were going to say it wasn't set in a hotel, like it was set like
No, it was all based around his wife. It wasn't based around Basil Fawlty. They actually did it without, and of course it bombed. It didn't last any length of time at all.
Well, probably because it's a stupid fucking idea.
Yes, I don't know if they thought it wouldn't translate properly, but then why do it in the first place? You know.
Exactly. It's like the In-Betweeners. They tried to do an American version of that, and that is very much British schoolboy humour. It's not funny across the pond, and I think that lasted 2 episodes before it got pulled as well. Because again, it's not the same experience going to school there as it is, and that was what was so crucial about it, was the school experience.
Yeah.
And it obviously just didn't translate at all. And why would it? I mean, I think it's hysterical, and don't get me wrong. We watched a few episodes a wee while back, and I was like, would you say that joke now? But I still think it's really funny, but it's not one that'll ever translate.
No, definitely not. Thankfully, I've never seen the US version of that. I don't think I ever will somehow.
No, I watched a clip of the pilot, and I was just that you're just going, this is actually terrible. Like you can understand the intent. They obviously a big high school thing. High school in America is all like cheerleaders and red cups. It's not, getting chucked in the river at work experience and getting talking about boobs. So, do you know the man in the Swedish version is 6'4"?
Yeah, I could see that he was kind of.
He looked like a unit, didn't he? He just looks absolutely massive. So
he's been in loads of stuff as well. He's one of these guys I've seen and must have seen in a few things,
He's I feel like that's quite a lot of not that there's only like 5 actors in Scandinavia. That's obviously not true, but you do what I call Borgen bingo, where you think you recognise someone and it usually leads you back to Borgen, but in this case, not always. But yeah, because I like that Ida Engvall that was in the Swedish version as well. I've actually just binge watched one of her rom-com series on Netflix that I really enjoyed. So it's the same people that show up in everything.
Yeah, it must be because they must have like a limited pool of talent available, especially if they're trying to just do Swedish only productions, if you like. But yeah.
Do you need a visa now to go to Europe? Does anyone need a visa? Is that a thing?
No, you don't need a visa for European travel. You need it obviously for like the likes of the States and some other places outside of Europe. It depends wildly. You just have to check before you actually go. But Europe's still fine. They've got this agreement in place that you can travel back and forward and your passport is enough. Which is
that's so benevolent of them.
I know. Well, it's reciprocal. It means people can come into this country as well without needing a visa. I don't think they've got visa requirements, like tourist visas or anything for here.
No, that I'm aware of. But I just thought they would have told us all to get to fuck immediately and required loads of paperwork.
Yeah, well, they try their best, obviously, squirting water pistols at people and all that sort of stuff. Did you read about that? Yeah.
Those people were eating at a fucking Taco Bell. If you're eating at a Taco Bell in Barcelona, you deserve all that you get.
Yeah. No, Katerina, my brother-in-law's partner, she was saying about Mallorca and Palma especially, that there's so many places that people are now saying this needs to stop, that there needs to be a limit on the number of places that can
And
actually
is
be
it?
used for short-term lets.
Well, see, that's what I was going to ask. It's not the tourists they're necessarily angry at. It's companies like Airbnb that are buying up properties, which means obviously it's pushing the price up of, especially on an island like
Yes.
Mallorca, where property obviously it is what it is. There's no other stock to have. So I assume it's sort of Airbnb and these kind of companies that they're more angry at.
Yeah, but obviously, like the likes of Booking.com and Airbnb and all the other ones, they're just facilitators.
Yeah.
Somebody signs up, so it's all private landlords. So
Right.
they're buying up properties, and rather than letting them out long term, they're just setting them up so that, and it's so expensive now. Like Airbnb when it started was really cheap because it was people's houses. I mean, we did it maybe the first year it was running, or maybe just like 2 years, and we stayed in a place in Rome, and it was this person's house that we stayed in. You could tell that it was their house. It was legal and everything because you need permits in Rome to actually let somebody else stay in your house. But it was dirt cheap and it was amazing. But if we went to try and get somewhere similar to that now, you're talking hundreds more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's just as dear as a
crazy.
hotel. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually cheaper a lot of the time. We've started just using hotels a lot more because it is cheaper than Airbnbs, and you've got sort of more comeback with them as well. But yeah, they can make as much money within the sort of tourist season than they would with a 12-month let for somebody, you know, or more than they would with a 12-month let for somebody, and the place isn't tied up at all. So, you know, but yes, it's a problem everywhere now. It really is. I mean, look at Edinburgh.
Well, I was going to say the Fringe is the big thing, isn't it? Because that's obviously there was. I can't remember if there's been much chat of it this year, but certainly last year I remember sort of protests against short-term lets in Edinburgh, because Edinburgh's so expensive to live in as it is without things like that, then pushing prices up further.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yes, I read about stuff this year. Performers saying it's completely unfeasible to actually perform Edinburgh. A lot of the time, a lot of these performers, they go there and they expect to lose money because they're not going to get like big crowds in, but it's the exposure and hopefully seeing someone who will invest in them as a performer, and you know, like if it's a show or whatever, you know. But they're saying it's like tens of thousands of pounds they would be losing out on just by trying to put on a production, because you've got the accommodation costs, and then you've got the costs that are associated with all like actually setting up a production, all that as well. Just completely unfeasible. And that's why there's one of the things that's come from that about how it's like middle class. Everything now is middle class that are going into the arts, and like all your pop stars and everything are mostly middle class people now, because working class people cannot afford to, you know, support their kids while they, you know, go and have the dream of being a musician or whatever. It's completely unfeasible. Yeah.
It's a shame, because actually, I mean, obviously, if you want to maybe move to Edinburgh or move to London or whatever, you obviously need to pay to live in those places, but you would need to have a full-time job. But how are you supposed to pursue, you know, an arts career when you're trying to hold down potentially like 2 or 3 jobs, whatever, on the side? But I mean, that debate's been around for ages, because there's that clip that I've watched a few times of James McAvoy talking about class in particular to acting, and he was saying, like, I've got nothing against obviously likes of your Benedict Cumberbatches and your Eddie Redmaynes and all the rest of it, but they do come from a very privileged schooling background. You know, they could take on free jobs or free internships or unpaid, because they had the support of, you know, well-to-do parents or whatever. And when you think of how many, like, look at Billy Connolly, for example. I mean, he would not exist in the current era because he obviously very working class, you know, worked in a shipyard, all the rest of it. And you just think, how many other talents are we losing out on because the way the system is set up seems so stacked against anyone who doesn't have like literally thousands of pounds to piss away.
Yeah, I know, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's a company in Glasgow, a record company in Glasgow called Last Night From Glasgow, who are a not-for-profit organisation. So they put out music for bands. They started off, it was just kind of local bands, but they've kind of expanded it a wee bit. And basically, the the bands themselves or the performers, they own all of their own material. It gets put out. They get 75% of the profits that actually come from it, and 25% gets pushed back into the business in order to keep that going. And that's been running since 2016, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. I know this because I signed up with them as a consumer. Like they produce mostly vinyl, but they produce like CDs and like downloads and stuff like that as well. But they have all these membership options where you can get so many LPs a year from their new stuff and all that, and you get money off all sorts of things. It's actually really good.
That's cool.
So it encourages you to go back and to listen to stuff that you wouldn't normally listen to, just for a wee change. But and I'd read about it before. I think Gareth's a member, Gareth Fraser.
Ah, right, okay,
He's a member, and there's another 2 people I know who are members as well. And there's like different levels of membership. You can get like a CD membership, and you get say 6 or 10 or 12 CDs, brand new ones every year and all that. And it just works really well. And that's something that is there because it's very difficult for musicians to actually get a foothold, because they're having to like invest in themselves and promote themselves and go around record shops and say, can you take these? Yeah, this is our new album. Can you take 20 of these on sale or return and all that? So all that's completely wiped out by them working with this record company who does all that for them. But at the end of it, doesn't say, now we completely own everything that you've ever done, which normally happens, like, so that they're all self-published and everything like that as well. So it's that's really, really good. It's really, I know. I think there's more and more of that kind of thing happening, but it all depends on the people who are running it having very little ego, because they are interested in the actual art. And they're able to work the business in such a way that they can have a living out of it, but they're also ploughing everything back into it, and they're very transparent about what they do. They've kind of set out like exactly, how much it costs to take it from inception to actually somebody getting a record in their hands, and where the money all goes and all that. And they have to be, because if you say you're not for profit, you have to sort of put that out there and let people know what you're doing. Otherwise, it could be construed as being, they're just saying that. And but no, it's really good. It's a guy called Ian Smith and his wife Julia, who I met for the first time 2 weeks ago when I went in and picked up sort of my initial albums. Because I'm not going to Sitges this year, I had a wee bit extra money, so I signed up for what they call their Unobtainium package, which is you get basically all of the new releases in the year, and there's 25 new releases, all on vinyl.
That's amazing.
But what I did was I signed up and got all of the previous ones that were in stock as well. So there's over 100 albums I bought. So I'm currently sitting there like working my way through like what I've actually got and all that, and started playing them all now as well. But it's excellent, like total wide spectrum of stuff, from like sort of jangly 80s pop right through to like sort of like doom and gloomy electronica and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
that sounds amazing.
It's all right, yeah. So it's something I'd sort of thought about for a wee while, just sort of doing that. Plus, you feel as if you're investing something as well at the same time. You're getting rewards from it, and the reward is it's music and all that as well. So yeah, it's all good. Finding new creative ways.
Tell me the details of that, actually, because I think Chris would really like that. I feel like that's right up his street. Because he listens to stuff that I'm like, how the fuck did you come across that? Like, how did you hear it? But he often falls down wee rabbit holes, so he listens to something that, that gets recommended something else, and I think he would really like something like that, actually, because he's quite open-minded when it comes to, I call some of his music someone banging on pipes, but he is quite open to listening to all sorts of things.
Well, there is, they've got, is it 4 different imprints now? Their main one's called Last Night From Glasgow, which is the line from the ABBA song, Super Chicken. It's taken from that. But they've also got like various other ones. They've got Past Nights From Glasgow, which is reissues of some Glasgow stuff. I mean, they reissued like a couple of Skids albums and things like that, which I was really interested in because I liked them the first time. And there's lots of different things. But they started up this sort of left field imprint called Componist, which is German for composer, I think it is.
Okay.
Well, I had to look it up to find it out. And they've had maybe about, I think there's been maybe 12, 13 releases. Some of them just download, some of them CD, one of them on vinyl. And it's all kind of left field, electronica kind of stuff. And see, when I was listening to it, I kind of thought, I wonder if Chris has heard any of this. Just because
I bet I know.
it was
I
kind
know.
of left fieldish sort of stuff. But yeah, I'll send you the details, obviously.
Yeah, that would be great. To this day, he still reminds me that he requested The Prodigy Smack My Bitch Up as our first dance at our wedding. And funnily enough, that didn't happen. That'll be for the vow renewal.
Yeah.
I was like, on what fucking planet is that happening? I was like, one, how are you supposed to dance it? And two, once everyone hears the name of it. So yeah, he lost that argument fairly quickly.
Aye, well, it's a good argument to lose because you don't want to look back on it in 20 years' time, and you're sitting there, oh, it's a wee sort of anniversary treat, we'll watch the video, and that comes on and everybody's sort of going, what the actual fuck?
It's not even that. They're like 20 years down the line. I didn't want if somebody said to me the week after, oh, what was your first dance song? I would probably be like, oh, smack my bitch up. As I say, that's maybe one for the vow renewal if we make it that far. I've also said to him that if we do a vow renewal, he has to wear full Spanish, like matador, like I want the tights and the bolero and all that sort of thing. So that might delay that from happening.
Nice. See, I can see him in a bolero jacket, I think. Yeah.
I can see this as well. I can absolutely see this. And I was like, I won't even make you wear the hat. Like, you can just wear the bolero, the frilly shirt, the pantaloons, and the tights. But I think those words alone were enough to say it all.
Well, you didn't say gold bolero. You could have a nice fabric one,
Oh,
yeah,
well, yeah. It doesn't have to be shiny. I'm not trying to dress him up like Liberace or something like that. It's his traditional dress,